Hello, everyone. My name is Hannelie. I'm born in Africa, and it's a very interesting time to be alive right now. And I came together with Lee because we were really curious about what's happening in the world right now, and that we all need a sacred, safe space to go to really explore and experiment with different ways of being, but also there's enough talk right now. We've got so many opportunities and platforms to ask, to contemplate and have conversations about what's happening in the world right now, what's busy emerging. But for us, it feels like there's a next level to this, of going deeper into it. And one of the ways of doing that for us is by asking questions. And it's not so much just about asking the question, it's about living the question. So it's the conceptual and the experiential. And Lee, would you describe it so beautifully. So I'm going to hand over to you about this living the question, why it's so prevalent today that we begin to do that and not simply just asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, when we think of our journey, we've shared through lockdown, we've had many conversations about how we're experiencing life, how we're experiencing the world, how we're experiencing ourselves in this, what is a very turbulent time, is a very mixed up time, a time when it's very difficult to tease out the threads of meaning from what seems to be happening in the world. And I think when you're faced, when there's this tug between what's felt, what's experienced inwardly, that part of us that we might refer to as soul, that gives us these nudges and points us in different directions and draws us towards longings and things, yet there's this other part, this outside world, that can often feel very different to that, can feel very constraining perhaps, or not so understanding of how you as a person fits into it. And what seems to connect those worlds then is this idea that you end up with a whole series of questions, things like, the great questions we've had all our lives. Who am I? Who really am I? When I'm my space and I'm with me, and the rest of the world and all the hectic and hurly-burliness isn't there. Who really am I when I'm just with me? And in answering that or exploring that, there comes this other part of it, which is, well, if this is an essence of who I am, what does that, how do I express that? What is my purpose? How does that manifest itself in this world that I'm in? We know there's a real joy to being alive. Life is perhaps the greatest gift that we may be given. But at the same time, how then do I express it in its fullness, in its entirety? So yeah, what you're saying there about, there's an invitation to go beyond making sense, to go beyond the conceptualizing, go beyond the talking and the discussion of, and start moving into a space where, a nurturing space, a caring space, where we can, just like perhaps that child going out into the world in the first steps into the world, it's about exploration. It's about living these, what is that? let me taste it, let me try it, let me see what it is. Can we take the same principle to our questions? Can we go into the world and live these questions? Can we take this material inside, and can we create with other people through living these questions? It's almost like a time for letting go of talking about things and finding the invitation, as we did, as we have been doing, as we've been sharing these questions that we've had in this time, and considering, how can I live them? How can I how can I make this part of my life, part of my being? Perhaps in that we break down barriers, we take down boundaries. The difference between the inner and outer experience is reduced. We become more porous. Where do I stop and where does the world begin, and vice versa? So we're living. It's the living part that I get all excited about.
And as you are so excited about that, it's about that easiness, beingness, and then living it. And the excitement is the joy part. It makes us come alive when we live the questions, and there's no right and wrong. So it's not about I'm doing it right or wrong, or I need to achieve something. So it's not a doing thing as such. It's being and living it. And it changes everything. The way we relate to the world, to nature, to each other, to ourselves. Our own self-awareness change dramatically when we just dip into that question and allow ourselves to swim in it and to see what comes and to explore. That's the experiential part. Like I say, you know what was wonderful when you were speaking about the child? I could just see the little one, so curious, so full of wonder, and there's no fear, absolutely no fear. And I think that's one of the reasons why living the question, first asking it and living it, so identifying it and exploring it, allowing it to come to us, the question, whatever way it reaches us, to start exploring and wondering and experimenting, because there's no fear in a child. They just do stuff. They just do stuff. And we can get so far from when we just really, I think we can take a quantum leap as humanity if we now begin to truly live some questions, some existential questions. And it doesn't need to be like mind-blogging questions. So some of our themes in our series here, the joy of living, the questions, is not so much about the theme itself. It's just a container for us to explore what's possible. And we don't have answers. We don't have answers.
And exactly, and I'm so pleased you said that. That's the burning on the tip of my tongue. You know, something here is not about answers. It is about the process of living, the process of leaning into exploration, the energy of bringing that energy forth and allowing it to drive and take us in different directions. You know, it's the Carl Rogers of becoming, not become. We're always in this process of becoming. So it's not where we're trying to get to that's important. It's that process. It's enjoying the journey, not the destination. It's being in the journey. Where does it take us? That will unfold on its own part of it. But if we can explore that, the questions that this life journey throws up, that will keep the moving forward. It will keep this unfolding, this unfurling of the fern.
The unfurling of the question, yes. So in our series that we are sharing and exploring together, which we call The Joy of Living Questions, and you can take it either way, or many ways, is the unfurling part afterwards. So it doesn't stop after we've explored together and we ask some interesting questions. It's really happening what happens afterwards, when we all begin to experiment with it and share in our Facebook group and see how it unfolds naturally. So it's also not something we're trying to control. And there's no specific outcome. We have no idea what's going to come out of it. So thank you very much for joining us here. We're going to share some interesting explorations together with you all, and let's see what unfolds and what wants to come from it, by living it, by really living it, not just talking about it. And I just feel that easiness, I-S-N-E-S-S, and easiness in my body as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you.